Doctors of Reddit. What is your most, oh my god what is that, moment while treating a patient? I am a surgery resident. I once helped operate on a man whose face was chewed off by a bear. I had to find little scraps of skin at the edges of the hole in the middle of his face and try to decide where they went to try and make the damage smaller. I also saw a patient come to the emergency department with a Barbie in their rectum. He apparently puts the arms up and legs down like a diving position, rubber bands the arms together, then places it in his rectum for a time. When he wants it out, he takes laxatives. Only this time it got stuck. The kicker, when we removed it, he asked for it back. I am not a doctor but a med student, 4th year. I had to take off a shoe from a hobo with diabetes. The most terrible smell you can imagine times a billion. Searched for the foot. After I pulled the shoe off, found the tip of the foot in the shoe on the ground. Blacked out. A friend who is a family doctor was treating a pre-teen girl who was complaining about a pain in the back of her neck. He did a preliminary examination and found a lump, and thought that it was likely a cyst that had become infected, and the parents agreed that he should remove it. That's when he noticed it move. Turns out it was a large botfly larva that the girl had picked up while vacationing with the family in South America. It was the size of a nickel.
What is expensive for no reason at all? Anything in an airport. Diamonds. A few companies own nearly all the world's diamonds and they purposely make the price high so they make more profits and the consumers can't go anywhere else. Funerals. Why must we pay tens of thousands for family who died? We don't even get to choose not to have one. Big ol' fat tax if I ever seen one. Eyewear. You can buy a cell phone for the same price, yet the price of the material is just a small fraction and GHR expertise to make them is not close either. And yes, you can buy glasses at a reasonable price, but that is only since recently and not often available in the shops. Some video games that aren't really that rare are super expensive now as of the past few years. When I was working and stuff I could find anything like Pokemon games for super cheap used and now when I look up games I want to play they're $100 or more. Sucks. Redditors who remember life pre-internet. What the heck did you occupy your time with? Lots of time on the phone talking about nothing important. Lots of time driving around because you didn't have money to do anything. Lots of time biking, when I didn't have my license yet. And, yes, my friends and I used to write letters to each other. Handwritten letters. Some were so heavy they took 2 stamps. I even had a pen pal in Ireland. Life was so fun. One of my favorite things that I remembered recently was we used Go Play night games. It was pretty much a buttload of people from local high schools, about half in cars and half on foot. There was a starting location and an ending location. People on foot would try to get to the end location without getting caught by the people in cars. It was one of the funnest things from high school. And yes, I'm from a small town. Playing with friends outside and dreaming up worlds that could never exist. Internet and video games made us think, well, now we can live in all of those worlds. They exist now. Not true. Every person has a unique perspective and equally unique fantasies, hopes, and dreams. So even though we found more worlds to play in post-internet, they were never our own. It was always somebody else's creation or somebody else's sandbox, with its own set of rules and limitations already built into it. Bill Gates said, "I will always choose a lazy person to do a difficult job because a lazy person will find an easy way to do it." What's a real-life example of this? I was working as a stockboy in a supermarket and when we had to fill the milk cooler people would bust open a 12-pack of milk cartons and put them in one by one. On my first day I just placed the 12-pack in the cooler and cut the plastic off on one side with my box cutter and yanked it from under it and the look of the store manager and the other employee who was training me was pure bewilderment. From that day everyone did it my way. The clerk was asked to bring 145 white papers into the office. He doesn't want to count the papers manually so he printed 145 blank sheets and took them in. In Australia explorers discovered a mountain that was taller than Mount Kosciuszko, which was though to be the tallest mountain in Australia. Rather than cause confusion by telling everyone a new tallest mountain had been found, they simply named the new mountain Mount Kosciuszko and renamed the original to something else. What improved your quality of life so much, you wish you did it sooner? Learning to get over myself. Nobody cares what I do, nobody is looking at me, and why should I care if they are? Nobody outside my circle has enough context to make accurate judgments about how I live, so why am I trying so hard to justify my decisions? As soon as I adopted that mindset, being alive got significantly less shitty. I do my best to be a decent person and to take care of myself, and the only opinions I care about are mine, my partner's, and my therapist's. Setting my own boundaries after realizing that when I didn't, people set them for me. Going to the gym. Used to be a miserable fat bastard, but after 3 months of going to the gym, I've lost about a stone and feel so much better. Cutting out toxic friends. After years of knowing someone, it can be hard to see that they are no longer the person they were when the relationship started. My childhood best friend grew into a manipulative, selfish prick. For years I hung out with him almost every day after work and always felt miserable afterwards. Everyone around me questioned why I still spent time with him. I always made excuses that seem ridiculous in hindsight. I should have cut ties 10 years ago. What is a sure sign that someone is new to your hobby? People buy fish the same day they buy their tank. Unfortunately, to start a fish aquarium, you need to cycle your tank, grow bacteria that will eat the poison ammonia that fish poop causes and turn it into nitrate. This is best done without fish and can take a few weeks to a month or more. However, most people come into the hobby saying, I have a fish. Now what? ... Sad face. You learn that fish keeping is more about maintaining water that fish just happen to live in. It's a lot like learning chemistry more than just feeding fish. Why do my plants always die in a few weeks? I water them every day. Pure, unadulterated excitement at the smallest thing. Not that I'm saying it's a bad thing, more that it's lovely to see. Talking too much to prove what they know. I have been very guilty of this. Someone who is experienced and skilled at a given activity will tend to just shut up and do it, whatever the activity may be. What's a subtle sign that someone isn't a good person? If they never take responsibility for anything. Watch them treat someone under them. Look to see if they treat someone under their authority with respect and compassion or if they treat them like a dictator. Doesn't put their litter in a bin, just drops it on the ground. They only care about you when they need something from you. When they flip every criticism back on you. Nothing is ever their fault. They somehow find a way to blame someone or something else in every possible situation. Always a victim. What did your parents allow you to do as a kid that you now realize was not age appropriate? After the divorce, my mom let me smoke. I was only 6 or 7. My dad hired escorts for me on my birthdays when I was a teenager. I know other guys have had similar experiences, but didn't learn until I got older and got out of the private school bubble that it's still not considered a normal thing. I still don't feel bad about it, but there's no way I'd let my future son do the same. My parents allowed me to use the internet without any supervision since I was 7 years old. I ended up getting groomed online by a pedophile for years without even knowing it. My parents never stopped me from watching shows or browsing the internet by myself. So since I was maybe 3 or 4 years old, I was watching shows like Criminal Minds and The Tudors. I personally think this didn't have a bad effect on me, but I definitely think I should have been watched more carefully. What's a subtle sign that someone is a good person but doesn't want to show it? Someone who's always quiet but raises their concern when they feel it's against theirs or someone's will. They are given a chance to quietly talk bad about someone, but instead, says something good. They say, take your time. When you are having an argument and they actually listen to your point instead of just getting ready to make theirs. When they realize you need help just by a look in your eyes and then actually help you. How they treat animals and customer service staff. especially when they are agitated. Putting their shopping cart in the corral, even if it's not right next to them. What does one learn from being exposed to the wealthy? Spend money to save time versus spending time to save money. I'm working with a guy that owns an extraordinary number of houses, land and a couple of mansions. I soon realized he has everything, and no time to enjoy it. That no amount of money will buy your way out of dealing with your insecurities. Everybody has their own set of problems. In my experience, when money isn't a problem, some other typically foolish thing fills its place. That you can be cash flow rich and balance sheet poor. That becoming wealthy isn't as much about massive income as it is about consistent saving and investing over time. That acting rich generally means you're poor or soon to be.